name is Faith, and for Children's Lit, it is Banned Book Week, so we had to choose one of the books that has been banned or challenged by teachers, libraries, and the book I chose was If I Ran a Zoo by Dr. Seuss. This is one of his many books that have been banned. According to the American Library Association, this book was challenged but still retained at a library in Vancouver, Canada in 2014 because of the line that says, with helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant, which has been said to be racist. And it also has a stereotypical illustration of an Asian population. This book has also been credited to have used the word nerd in a sentence. Although libraries do not reach for this book to read to children during circle time, they use it as studies to show how the portrayal of a certain culture has changed over time. I was surprised, and when I found out that this book was challenged because I have read it in school. The Lexile, the age is from 5 to 9. The level is AD 870L. And it says the reason why his books are mainly banned is because they are racist. This book isn't very long, so I can go ahead and read it to you. If I Ran a Zoo by Dr. Seuss. Even though the pictures are simple, they're still pretty. It's a pretty good zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, and the fellow who runs it seems proud of it too. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes, and that's just what I'd do. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have up here now are not quite good enough. You see things like these in just any old zoo. They're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. So I'd open each cage, I'd unlock every pen, and let the animals go and start over again. And somehow or other, I think I could find some beasts of a much more unusual kind. The pictures are pretty simple, but they're very well illustrated. A 4-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet at least, 5 legs on the left and 5 more on the right. Then people will stare and they will say, "What a sight!" This zookeeper's new keeper, Gerald's quite keen. That's the gol darndest lion I have ever seen. And it shows a picture right here of what the lion would look like. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of a hen who roosts in another hen's top knot, and then another one roosts in the top knot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth and upward and onward, gee whiz. There's the picture of the hens. But that's just a start. I'll do better than that. They'll see me next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming into my zoo with an elephant cat. They'll be so surprised they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask when they see my strange animal come, where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals all have such very odd faces. I'll bet he must hunt them in rather odd places. And there's the elephant cat. And that's what I'll do, said young Gerald McGrew. If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you'd have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go to places no others can get to. You have to get cold, and you have to get wet, too. Up past the North Pole, where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go and I'll hunt in my Skiggle-mobile, and bring back a family of what do you know. And that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow. I'll hunt in the mountains of Zamba Ma Tant with helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant, and capture a fine fluffy bird called the bustard, who only eats custard with sauce made of mustard, and also a very fine beast called the flustered, who only eats mustard with sauce made of custard. And this is the part that's been challenged because of the illustrations of the Asian helpers. I'll catch him in caves, I'll catch him in brooks, I'll catch him in crannies, I'll catch him in nooks. That you don't read about in geography books. I'll catch him in countries that no one can spell, like the country of Mata Fa Tata Fa Pale. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beasts that you never saw ever. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jotes whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel skin coats, and sit down like dogs and have voices like goats, excepting they can't sing the very high notes. There's some pictures. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, now I like that boy's heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing in leaps. He captures them wild, he captures them meek, he captures them slim, he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week? I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute, I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice he would sleep in your bed if it weren't for those horns he has on his head. Just a picture of the deer. And speaking of horns that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer, a mother, a father, 2 sisters, a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other, whose horns are so mixed that they can't see them apart, can't tell where they end, can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled. He's never yet found his horns are hers or the other way around. There's a picture of the deer. I'll capture them fat, I'll capture them scrawny, I'll capture a scragglefoot mulgatawny, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind from the blistering sands of the desert's end. This beast is the beast that the brave chieftains ride when they want to go fast to find some place to hide. A mulgatawny is fine for my zoo, and so is a chieftain. I'll bring one back too. This little kid has quite the imagination, in my opinion. In the far western part of the southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called the iota, but I'll capture one who's even much finer in the northeastern west part of South Carolina. When people see him, they will say, now, by thunder, this new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is really a wonder. Most beasts are quite friendly, but still in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine, but rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it a hunter can never get bit. Here's his little machine. A zoo should have bugs, and I'll catch a thwirl, whose legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African islands of Yurka and bring back a tizzle-top tufted mazurka, a kind of canary with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long, if he swallows an oat for breakfast on the first day of April, they say it has to go down such a very long way that it won't get his stomach till the 15th of May. I'll bag a big bug who's very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising, and zooming around making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that's the sort of thing for a bug that just hops. And when I've caught him, the next thing you know, I'll go and capture a wild tic-tac-toe with X's that win with with zeros that lose, he'll look mighty in the zoo of McGrew's. I bring back a gusset, a gherkin, a gasket, and also a gooch from the wild of Nantasket. And 8 Persian princes will carry the basket with their names, but what their names are I do not know, so I don't ask it. Here you go. In the cave of Khartoum lives a beast called the Natch that no other hunters have been able to catch. He's hidden for years in this cave with a pal, and no one has been able to make him come out, but I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cooker-mobile. They'll fix up a dish that's just to his taste, 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut shucks, pickled and spiced, then bake at 600 degrees, and then iced. It's mighty hard cooking to cook up such feasts, but that's how the new zoo McGrew Zoo gets feasts. I'll go to a far away mountains of Topsk, near the river of Nopsk, and bring back an Opsk, a sort of kind of thingamabobsk, who only eats rhubarb and corn on the Kopsk. Then people will flock to my zoo in a Mopsk. McGrew Zoo, they will say, does a wonderful jobsk. He hunts in such vim and he hunts with such vigor. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, gets bigger and bigger. And speaking of birds, there's a Russian Palooski whose headski is redsky and belly is bluesky. I'll get one of them for my Zooski McGrewski. And then the whole town will gasp, why, this boy never sleeps. No keeper before ever keeps what he keeps. There's no telling what this young fellow will do, and then just to show them, I'll sell to Carew and bring back an Itchcutch, a Preep, and a Peru, a Nurgle, a Nerd, and a Seersucker too. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hippo-no-Hungus and bring back a flock of wild Bippo-no-Bungus. The Bippo-no-Bungus from Hippo-no-Hungus are better than those down in Dippo-no-Dungus, and smarter than those out in Nippo-no-Nungus. And that's why I'll catch him in Hippo-no-Hungus instead of those other Nunguses and Dunguses. And people will say, when they see the Bips bounding, this zookeeper's new keeper is simply astounding. He travels so far, you'd think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? Stop? Well, I should, but I won't stop until I've captured a Phasma-Wizamadil, the world's biggest bird from the islands of Guark, who only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. Oh boy! When I get him back to my home park, the world will say, young McGrew's made his mark. He's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts he chooses have made the greatest of all the McGrewses. There's a picture of the zoo. Wow, they'll all cheer. What this zoo must be worth. It's a gold darndest zoo on the face of this earth. Yes, that's what I do, said the young McGrew. If I'd make a few changes if I ran the zoo. The end. And there's some words in here that I think aren't appropriate for children, like the word queer is mentioned in this book, and gold darndest, that can easily get misstrued if trying to read it, especially with all the tongue twisting words. But this is If I Ran a Zoo by Dr. Seuss. Thank you.